Hey everyone, and welcome. If you've picked botany as your optional for the UPSC exam, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to crack the code on paper 1. We're going to turn what looks like a massive, intimidating list of topics into a clear, strategic map that you can actually use to succeed. So, have you ever looked at that syllabus and just felt completely overwhelmed? It's extensive, it's detailed, and yeah, it can absolutely feel like this unclimbable mountain. But here's the good news. There's a much smarter way to get to the top. You see, you don't have to tackle this with just brute force. The real key is strategy. And in this explainer, we're basically handing you the map, a guide to help you navigate the terrain, identify all the key landmarks, and find the most efficient path forward. So, here's our game plan. We'll start with a big picture overview of paper 1. Then we'll break it down into Section A, which is the foundations, and Section B, which covers plants and all their applications. And then we'll get to the best part. We'll pinpoint the exact strategic areas you should be focusing on. Let's get started.
Okay, before we dive into all the nitty-gritty details, we need to understand the nature of the paper itself. Think of it this way. Knowing the rules of the game is always the first step to winning it, right?
Here's a major strategic advantage for you right from the get-go. If you're preparing for the civil service exam, you are simultaneously covering almost the entire syllabus for the Indian Forest Service exam. The CSE syllabus is just a tiny bit larger, which means your preparation for it automatically gets you ready for the IFS with pretty much no extra work needed for paper 1. And I mean, the overlap is massive, a full 98%. This is a huge advantage if you're even thinking about both exams, and it makes your whole preparation incredibly efficient. So, what's the terrain actually like? Well, first, the syllabus size is moderate and totally manageable. The topics are direct, and crucially, the level we're talking about is BSc Honours, not some scary, daunting master's level. Now, here's a key tip. Self-made notes filled with your own drawings are absolutely essential. Why? Because botany is an incredibly visual subject. Actually drawing out complex structures like flower parts or life cycles literally burns them into your memory. And finally, you can rest assured your effort won't be wasted. Questions have been asked on about 95% of the topics over the years. This brings us to a really crucial piece of advice. For paper 1, please avoid the trap of just using scattered online content. The consensus is crystal clear. Your preparation has to be anchored in a standard textbook to build the kind of depth and accuracy you're going to need. All right, let's dive into our first major area, Section A, the foundations. This covers microbiology, pathology, and cryptogams, which are really the foundational elements of botany, from microorganisms and plant diseases to the entire world of non-seed-bearing plants. Section A is really built on two main pillars. First, you've got microbiology and plant pathology, where you'll study everything from viruses and bacteria to the molecular basis of how plants fight off disease. The second pillar is cryptogams, which covers the structure, reproduction, and evolution of groups like algae, fungi, and ferns. And just to be crystal clear, when we say cryptogams, what are we talking about? We're talking about plants that don't produce seeds. Instead, they use spores to reproduce. This group forms a massive and totally essential part of your Section A preparation. Now, when you're studying plant diseases, here's a simple, super effective framework. You just need to know these 4 things for any given disease. But here's the crucial insight. You can safely ignore the complex, detailed disease life cycles. The exam just doesn't focus on them anymore. So you can channel all your energy into these 4 key areas. Okay, now we're moving on to Section B. If Section A was all about the foundations, Section B is about the more complex, seed-bearing plants and their direct relationship with us, from the food we eat to the technology we develop. Section B has 3 main parts. First, phanergams, which is really just the seed-bearing plants. Next up is plant resource development, which is essentially economic botany, or how we use plants. And finally, morphogenesis, a really cool modern topic focused on how we can grow entire plants from just a few cells using tissue culture. Now, within the huge topic of flowering plants, or angiosperms, the syllabus gives you a huge gift. It gets very specific. It singles out exactly 20 plant families that you need to master. Not 19, not 21, just 20. And for these 20 families, your focus has to be laser sharp. The exam wants you to follow a specific pattern, know the floral characteristics, be able to write the floral formula and draw the diagram,
And finally, list their economic importance. That is the formula for success right there.
Okay, we've surveyed the whole map of paper 1. Now for the most important part. Where's the treasure? This is where we apply the 75% rule to focus our efforts for the absolute maximum reward. Here is the core of our entire strategy. While you do need to cover the entire syllabus, a very specific set of high-yield topics consistently accounts for up to 75% of the questions asked. Mastering these areas is the absolute key to getting a high score. So what are these high-yield areas? Let's walk through the list. First, microbiology and plant pathology, understanding the how and why of disease. Next, the cryptogams, all of them, algae, fungi, ferns. Then, angiosperm systematics, focusing on those 20 key families. And finally, the highly conceptual but high-scoring topics of embryology, which is the study of plant reproduction and seed development, and morphogenesis, that tissue culture topic we mentioned. This is your priority list. And here's a final piece of advice for tackling these topics. Even for something like cryptogams that seems really fact-heavy, focus on the concepts and the evolutionary story that connects them all. Understanding that narrative, instead of just memorizing a bunch of isolated facts, is what makes this knowledge really stick in your memory for the long term. So there it is. The syllabus is no longer some unknown mountain. It's a map with a clear path and marked points of interest. The only question left is, where will you begin your journey?